Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Before we begin, let's land for a moment. You showed up today because part of you is turning toward truth, expansion, and alignment. Sunday Spark is my weekly email created for the ones who are ready to live life in full ownership, to build in rhythm and grow from a place of ease. Each letter includes insights, activation prompts, and practical tools woven through my holistic trifecta, which is optimal health, positive relationships, and wealth building. And the best part? It's only 45 to 90 seconds to read. It's a quick spark, a gentle activation, something you can carry into your week. If you want that kind of moment in your inbox every Sunday, you're invited. Sunday Spark is there. It's ready when you are. The link to join is in the show notes. You ever think your reset blew something up when actually it saved you from blowing yourself up? Modern life overloads us, especially in holiday seasons. And when we reset, we often mistake it for losing progress or losing connection, when it's actually how we return to clarity and regulation and identity and alignment. Welcome back, dreamers. Today, we are reframing the idea of resetting in life, in identity, in relationships, and in our bodies. And this is during a season that is overwhelming for almost everyone, okay? This is the time of year when the world moves fast and emotions run high and expectations stack up and sleep drops and cortisol rises and chaos feels louder, okay? If you are tired of feeling overwhelmed or like you can't keep up, I see you, okay? Resetting is not regression. Resetting is regulation. Regulation is the name of the game. Today, you are going to walk away knowing how to reset without self-betrayal and how to spot progress even when your body is begging for a nap, like mine is right now, but we'll talk about that later. Okay? So the modern nervous system rarely gets true closure. Okay? So centuries ago, a stress response meant you were running from a predator, you were surviving a harsh winter, right? Today, stress comes from emails, social expectations, family dynamics, financial deadlines, content pressure, like creating content. If any of you fellow content creators out there, you know, illness, screens, notifications, noise, traffic, all the things. And the nervous system reacts the same way. Even when your rational mind knows that you're not in danger, your body doesn't care if the threat is a bear or a busy inbox, okay? So cortisol is cortisol. Adrenaline is adrenaline. A threat is a threat. I want to say this too. Stress hormones spike when days feel unpredictable. However, slow exhale breathing, exhales longer than the inhale is what I mean, that can lower your cortisol within minutes by shifting the parasympathetic response. Okay? We talk a lot about this in other episodes, but I got to throw it in here because it's important. Cortisol is the body's chemical alarm system. It's life-saving in short bursts. It's devastating if lived in long loops. Okay? You don't want to stay in a chronic state of fight or flight. Gratitude creates a measurable psychological countersignal. Slowing the breath, lowering the perceived threat, shifting the parasympathetic system into repair mode. Okay, we talked a lot about this in episode 59, Gratitude as a Portal. In pretty much broadly established findings about cortisol and stress, they show that slow exhales or coherence-based regulation can drop cortisol, like I said, within minutes, especially when the emotional relevance changes. And so gratitude works like a cortisol shutoff switch. And that's not because it fights stress. It's because it replaces the internal signal of danger. Okay? One way that you could use gratitude, for instance, you're going, well, okay, so I've got content pressure and I've got financial deadlines and I'm supposed to be grateful. Yeah. What I'm saying is, yeah, you find something to be grateful for. Even if that grateful is like, okay, all of this is letting me know I might need to make some adjustments in my life, in my schedule. I'm grateful that this pressure I'm feeling, that this stress signal my body just alerted me to, I'm grateful that this is showing me what parts of my life need my attention. Okay? This right here, when you can look at this as information. This is data. This is information. I'm grateful that I have the eyes to see, the awareness to recognize that I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. I'm feeling a little stressed right now. Oh, I'm grateful that I listened to that episode and know I can switch to gratitude, and that will help shift me into a parasympathetic state. There's always something you can be grateful for. Focus on that. Okay? Dysregulation creates reactive communication and not necessarily truthful expression. So when you're tired and you're sleep deprived or emotionally overloaded even, the words that come out are survival based. They're not heart based. You snap faster, you internalize more, you interpret what would really be neutral behavior as a threat. And you're responding from this fight or flight instead of intuition and coherence. And so resetting is going to interrupt that reaction long enough for you to return to choice versus a reaction. Okay? And I want to say this about sleep. Sleep debt isn't weakness, it's information. Okay, so for instance, a person who sleeps 5.5 hours for multiple nights is going to have a measurable drop in emotional resilience and impulse control and sensory integration. Okay, because a lack of sleep increases your cortisol, your inflammation, your fight or flight bias, all the things. And that's going to make your body less receptive to your intuition or reframing or integration, you know? And so resetting is how we recalibrate the body so that we can respond with connection instead of collapse. And I'm going to go ahead and share this right now because when I said at the beginning that I felt like I needed to nap. So I, for the last 2 nights in a row, have gotten about 5.5 hours of sleep each night. And I had a child who was sick this morning. And of course, that's a priority. We did the doctor and all that, ended up arriving nearly 2 hours late for my scheduled time for this recording studio. And here's the thing. I had an event I hosted last night, which I did not get home until really close to midnight. It was just not my normal routine. I normally have 7.5 to 8 hour nights. Now, back in the day, before my intentional journey of self, I was like probably averaged 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night for years. And you could tell I wasn't making the correlation then, but absolutely my health, my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, all of the things were suffering. And now that I understand how important sleep is for all the reasons, that's like a non-negotiable for me. I mean, I'm, my normal 7.5, 8 hours. Well, I will tell you this, and I wear the smart ring now, so I'm able to track my sleep and see all that. And normally my sleep efficiency, my sleep scores are, 90 to 100%. And that is consistently, and that is all the time, the sleep efficiency and the sleep quality. Well, guess what? These last 2 nights that I've gotten 5.5 hours each night, my sleep scores are like 74, right? They're a lot lower. And the efficiency is like 85%, and normally it's really pretty much averages 97 to 100. And guess what? This morning I was driving, and of course I attended to my daughter and did things, and I was just driving and started crying. And I don't even exactly remember why. And I was like, what am I even crying over? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm just tired. Here's the thing though. I still showed up. I still stayed regulated. I'm still voicing my truth. I'm still recording anyway. That's integration. And I'm also going back to my 7.5 to 8 hour nights. I'm not going to keep this up. I can even see just already that little bit of a difference and another thing, I don't ever get headaches like that, ever. I can't even tell you the last time I got a headache. And I think that might have been kind of what happened in the car. I started feeling a little tension between my eyebrows, like in the center of my forehead. And I'm like, what is going on? And really, it was just like this realization that sleep makes a difference. And especially for me, who's just for so long been prioritizing sleep. So just to have even two nights where I'm not getting the restful night's sleep, the good quality sleep that my body's used to getting at this point. So when I think back to that version of myself that was just consistently not prioritizing sleep. And I know there's lots of people out there for lots of different reasons. Look, you could be in a season with a newborn. You could be taking care of somebody who's ill. Like there's all sorts of reasons that you may not be getting a lot of sleep. What I want you to hear though is that it's not a weakness, your sleep debt, meaning if it's not a weakness, but it's information. And I want you to use that information wisely. And you don't know what you don't know. So you have to be sure that you understand all the reasons that sleep is important, okay? Now, when you reset your body, you are telling your brain this pattern is not the boss anymore. Okay? You're not bulldozing your emotions. You're metabolizing them long enough for clarity to return. And your system shifts from urgency to this grounded presence. And your RAS we talked about this in the gratitude episode too. Your RAS is your reticular activating system, and it's located in your brainstem, like at the base of your skull there. And it's what begins shifting what you even notice next. And it's scanning for safety and support instead of danger. Okay? So we're not calling a reset a step backwards anymore. We are calling it a return to coherence and clarity and safety, self-choice, awareness, alignment. So take a slow exhale and let your body know that it's safe to come back to you. Okay? You know, this is also the season that people outgrow identities that used to fit. And when you reset, your brain tries to make it mean something dramatic. Like, well, did we even change? Yeah, you did. You return to a layer that used to dominate you, but you're meeting it with a new you now. Okay? And these old identity loops, they flare when we're tired, not when we failed. I want you to hear that. Identity loops are the subconscious scripts that once protected you. Okay? Like shrinking your voice, people pleasing, avoiding conflict, numbing emotion, buffering your authority, managing disappointment, staying busy to avoid your feelings, or doing anything to avoid your feelings, numbing. I said numbing, I think already. There's lots of things we do to avoid our feelings, feeling our feelings. And I don't have to list them all here because I know you know some of the things that you do to avoid feeling your feelings. We all have things, myself included. We all have things, right? I'm consciously aware of it now and choose when I recognize I'm doing it, I choose to come back into alignment. This is what I'm inviting you to do as well. And these loops, they come from your subconscious and not your potential, right? So resetting interrupts them long enough for you to witness them instead of operating from them. That's the important part. And to be a witness without judgment, with kindness, always. Okay? Always. I want you to also think of these identity resets like essentially you're rebooting your internal operating system. You're not erasing the identity you had. You are turning it off long enough to see what parts of you want to bring forward and which parts are done. Guys, this is integration. It's not rejection. And it's ownership, not collapse. There are some of us who are still running on Windows 98, is what I'm saying. It's time to upgrade your operating system, okay? This just came to my mind. I guess it's a little parable I once heard. There's this young oak tree that dropped acorns every autumn, and it was grieving each one. And the forest whispered back, the release is not the loss, the release is the multiplication of you. And the next spring, hundreds of little saplings grew from what she shed. And then the oak realized the power wasn't in holding, it was in releasing. That little parable was made true. I got to witness it in real life through a plant that I bought at a little art show the beginning of the year called Mother of Thousands. As soon as I saw this plant, I was drawn to it. It was only about 6 inches tall when I bought it. And the leaves had these little, I didn't know what they were at the time, but there was something, only 4. So there was several leaves, but one of the leaves had these 4 little, looked like they weren't flowers, but they were some sort of other little thing growing on them, on the engines. And I asked the guy, I'm like, what is this? Like, I was fascinated. I was drawn to it. And he's like, that's a mother of thousands. And those little things are the babies. I don't know if y'all have ever seen a mother of thousands, but they're so cool. And so he said, yeah, all of the leaves will grow all of these little babies off the edges. And then they grow roots. The roots just kind of hang down from these little babies growing. And then they drop them. And then each one of those, and then they just, it's like, it is wild how much this thing produces, hence the name Mother of Thousands. So when the plant is stressed or when it's overloaded or when anything happens or when they're grown, the babies, they will drop and then it just keeps producing more. And this plant regenerates itself infinitely is what I'm saying. But it's the same idea that the power's not in holding them on, it's in releasing. Because now I have this plant. So I got it at the beginning of the year. It was maybe 6 inches tall. It's now probably 18 inches tall at least. It's huge. It's full. It has had already thousands of babies. And the funny thing is, so I have the pot by a back porch, and on the probably about 20 feet away, there's concrete there, like a driveway, but then about 20 feet away, there's a little patch of rocks that's about 15 inches wide or something. Well, it's so crazy because all these little babies with the wind and stuff will blow over there, take root and grow. So now, all in the rocks, there are all these little babies. And I propagate them and dig them up and plant them in little pots and then can gift them or do whatever with them. I brought them to some shows and let other people purchase their first Mother of Thousands plant so they can begin their journey with this amazing plant, which is the plant of abundance, by the way. All that to say this, though, you got to let it go. So that old operating system, that old identity you had, you got to let it go. You know, releasing it is the key, is what I'm saying. When you drop identities that you've been performing, you reclaim energy that's been leaking into the false self, okay? And you stop adapting to other people's distortions of you. And you meet yourself without negotiating your worth. Because sometimes we can really, look, I've said this before, you can either be, someone once said this to me, and now I've adopted this as my own. I guess that's why that word got into my head. You can either be your own worst enemy or you can be your own best cheerleader, right? You can be either. And sometimes we really are our own worst enemy. And we can do that. We can negotiate our own worth with ourselves in our own head. Why do we do that? Because we're human. Okay? It's okay. That's why you're listening to this podcast, and that's why we're having this conversation, because you know I'm ready to meet myself without negotiating my worth. I'm ready to be my own best cheerleader, okay? The days of me being my own worst critic are long gone. So resetting is how we interrupt that performance long enough to remember this is who I am under all of it. The not fitting anymore phase is kind of what I'm talking about. Like this just doesn't fit anymore. This version of me doesn't fit anymore. Guys, this whole phase is where self-love uni becomes real medicine, okay? It's a container for you to notice your identity wound without collapsing into it and regulate your body while you update your internal scripts, those subconscious scripts that are running through your mind, dissolve shame-based self-abandonment behaviors, and build self-trust that survives real-world stress, and integrate who you are and practice, not performance. Okay? So when you feel like you're not fitting anymore, breathe. That means the upgrade is already in motion. And we only reset the identities when we have the capacity to release them. And baby, you are in the room with that capacity right now. Okay? Speaking of that, about when things aren't fitting anymore, let me see what episode that was. I have my little calendar right here. I had a good one that was on that. It's something like when the old you, let me see what one that is. I really want to tell y'all, so thanks for being patient. Here it is, episode 46. When the old you stops fitting, but the new you hasn't arrived yet. That sounds like one you would be interested in right now. Check it out. Number 46. Okay. Let's see. I know what I want to talk about right now. Let's talk about emotional resets. I was kind of before just talking about identity resets, and I want to get into emotional resets, like feeling grief and heartbreak and overwhelm without reactive collapse, okay? We do emotional resets not to erase the hard feelings. No. We do them to metabolize them so that we don't collapse into old protection mechanisms, okay? Letting go of an outcome is not giving up. It's reclaiming your identity long enough to feel what is actually happening in the body. Let's start here. What happens when you don't reset? Well, you numb. There's a million ways you can numb, okay? You scroll to cope. Doom scrolling. You get addicted to your own stress chemicals. Guys, yes, you can absolutely become addicted to a life you don't even like. That's facts. Science. Okay? You know what else we can do? You justify urgency as importance, which reminds me, one of my moms, she used to tell me this, when I was a professional hand lettering artist, when that was my full-time gig, and I was so super busy and swamped with it. And everyone had deadlines. Mom had something that she would tell me often, and because I needed to hear it. Your lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. Because what would often happen, people would, call me like, oh, I just remembered I have this event. Or it was just like the last minute rush type of orders. Or I forgot this, can you add this? And she would just tell me, because I would allow myself to get so stressed, and I was a people pleaser, and I wanted to make everybody happy, and I wanted to show up, and I would end up just really driving myself into the ground to accommodate all of these other people's requests. And Mom would often come back to this, Kelly. Their lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on your part. Okay? So that's what happened for me back then. When I wasn't resetting at the time, I was justifying urgency as importance. That it was just like other people, it was urgent for other people, and so it had to be important for me. Okay? And you run on autopilot, and you leak energy into avoidance, and suddenly you're living a life that feels like something is missing, and you don't know what. Been there, done that. So what causes us to avoid the resets then? Well, most people avoid resetting because it means sitting close to their real feelings without distraction. And the analytical mind hates the lack of conclusion. The body picks familiar hustle chemicals over unfamiliar rest chemicals, okay? And your ego tries to protect that identity that once helped you survive disappointment. So, again, this is science. When you deny burnout or heartbreak or grief or overwhelm, your body's keeping inventory. It becomes fascia tension, chronic inflammation, sleep disruption, irritability, low heart-brain coherence, guys, reactive communication. This is not a moral failure. I want to be clear on that, okay? This is not a moral failure. It is a physiological tax that your body collects later, and you are going to have to pay. So, what does a holiday self-reset look like? 5 slow exhales that you can take anywhere. Your breath is freely accessible to you. It is always with you. Your breath is the one thing. It was the very first thing you took when you came into this world, and it is the very last thing you will take before you exit this world. A breath. Your breath belongs to you. It's freely, it costs $0. It is freely accessible to you anytime, anywhere, okay? So 5 slow exhales you can take anywhere. Remember, exhale longer than the inhale. 1 10-minute home or emotional reset. This is, again, well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about home resets later, but that's something you can do. Labeling the emotion that you're in without negotiating it, okay? Simply labeling it. You're not negotiating with it. You're not trying to change it. You're simply labeling it. And taking one intentional action, however small, toward your alignment. And then feeling gratitude for that, okay? Returning your power to your body instead of your outcome. And this one, guys, I know can feel tough. We really do get kind of fixated on that outcome. The best advice I can give you is release your attachment to the outcome, okay? Return your power to your body instead. And then remember that self-love is not situational, it's sovereign. This is a state of being. Self-love, we want that to be the baseline, okay? So emotional resets are not relational ruptures either, guys. You're not pushing the emotions down. You're metabolizing them long enough to return to yourself with choices instead of collapse. And this might feel foreign at first, especially if you haven't been doing it. Keep going. It's going to get easier and easier and easier. And it's going to feel more and more natural because it becomes an embodied way of being, practice, right? It's integrated into your life. One thing, okay, so that was emotional, reset. Let's talk about some digital and algorithm resets, like cleaning your feed so it feels like you again. Because we need to talk about this, okay? We really need to talk about your digital ecosystem. Because your feed is inventory too, and you built that mirror one scroll at a time. So if you want your life to glow, you have to reset the mirrors you stare into the most. There is an entire episode on this. The algorithm is your mirror. And, this one is, I can't think of the name the number off the top of my head, but look it up. The algorithm is your mirror. It was a really good episode. A lot of people have downloaded that one as well, so you might want to check it out. Because this I'm going to just briefly talk about it here. that episode goes deep, deep, deep into your algorithm and your social media habits and whatnot. And so we're at the end of the year here, guys. A new year is right around the corner. Now is the time. Now's the time. Okay. So I just have began doing this myself. I've recently just started a little bit of this process on my own. And guess what? With each thing that I unsubscribe to, I'm talking about the algorithms, but also digital resets. For instance, like just some emails that I'm like, man, I've been getting this email from this company all year. I've not really read it. I've not opened it. I kind of delete them every time. Why am I still getting it? So, and it might have been a company that at one time I was excited about, but maybe I just don't feel as excited about it anymore. So I realized, like, instead of this FOMO, like, oh, they might send something I want. It's like, realistically, I've not, for whatever reason, my lifestyle, my schedule, my preferences, I've not felt as interested in this company, this brand, this whatever it is all year. I can always, like, if it's meant to be, I can always come back and find them again. I can always resubscribe to the email list or what have you. And so most of these that I'm talking about are probably like retail type places, whether that's clothes, shoes, makeup, that sort of thing that I've ordered from before. And of course, gotten on their email list and just realized that I don't need this many emails from this company in my inbox all the time. So I've unsubscribed. And every time I do, I'm like, it took me a little longer. Like, I'm deleting them all the time. And then once you actually follow through and unsubscribe, feel a little lighter, So I'm encouraging you to do that as well. If you want your digital ecosystem to feel aligned and nourishing, then you have the ability to curate it intentionally, is basically what I'm saying. And resetting your feed means taking ownership of your inputs so that your mind and nervous system aren't absorbing what burns you out. And guys, digital discernment really beats passive consumption every single time. Your feed is inventory too. So if you scroll through aggressive, divisive, stressful, shame-based content all day, your nervous system doesn't recognize the difference between online threats and real ones. So resetting your feed is a self-love act, and it boosts emotional regulation and it restores your capacity for presence. Maybe you don't need to go unfollow all of these accounts, but if some are showing up and you're feeling that way, mute them so that they just don't show up in your feed, okay? If something's triggering you and you don't want to unfollow for whatever reason you may have, well, mute it. Just mute it. There's things you can do. Don't be afraid to do it, is what I'm saying. This is you looking out for you, okay? And guess what? Guess what's going to happen if you don't reset the digital space, your digital spaces? You binge consume, you shame scroll, you doom scroll, okay? And you get chemically rewarded for stress and cortisol responses, even though you don't like your life. Guys, your body will justify it. Your mind will glorify it. Your coherence will drop. Your magnetism will dim. This is real life facts of what happens. So that's why it's important. Before you decide that you're failing, I want you to check your mirrors. Okay? Remember I said the algorithm is a mirror. The moments that you choose to reset are the moments you choose to evolve. When you get on your social media today, as soon as something comes up and you recognize, man, every time this post from this account shows up, it makes me feel a way, and not a good way. There's your sign. Take action. Future you's going, yee-hoo, all right? Okay, I want to tell you a little story. So one day, I had walked into my living room during this season that I thought I was crushing in many ways. The business was expanding. My confidence was louder. My clothes are vibey. My intentions are set. My heart's open. However, it was a busy season. Lots going on. And my house at that moment was feeling a little cluttered. It had been probably about, like 2 weeks of this transition period of just growth and expansion. It wasn't messy. It was just like a little glorified chaos. And in the corner, well, I say in the corner, like kind of against a wall, but sort of in the corner-ish, is this houseplant. It's this beautiful one. It's an ivy that I've had for pretty much since I moved in there, so for years. And it's kind of like neglected a little. And I thought, oh my gosh, the plant's dying. And then I had the click. It's not dying. It's responding to the environment that I've placed it in. That plant was my nervous system and my mental field, my energy. Okay. So I thought I was doing all these things right. And in the process, though, again, there was some neglect happening. So I reset the environment. I cleared the table, cleared the clutter. There was just some things that had gotten stacked up. And I opened the door, let some fresh air in, did a little Palo Santo type thing around the environment, watered the soil, because that's part of what had happened too, is I just got out of my habit of my weekly watering schedule in the midst of all this transition. And guess what? But it was like the clutter, the things I had kind of stacked on the table in between this and that. It was like I just accepted that that's going to have to be that way for a little while. I wasn't judging myself for it. It was just like I'm going in so many different directions and putting my intention on so many different things that, like, if this has to look like this for 2 weeks, then this looks like this for 2 weeks. And I'm going to be okay with it. I'm not going to judge myself for it. And so when I'm standing there in the kitchen, though, and I look over and I notice this plant and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that plant. And it don't look too cute right now, like at all. And then I kind of glanced over and I see this other stuff. And that's the realization. Like, well, look at the environment. And because of all this, I just didn't water it. That Sunday, I water on Sundays. So here's the thing. The plant perked back up in days, not months, okay? And it was good. Why? Because reset invites life back into motion, okay? So just like the plant, when your environment is depleted, you wilt. When your environment is reset, you glow and you grow, okay? So resetting is how you return to center without rupturing your expansion. That's what I want you to hear. And then also, friends, I want to give you some resets that you can do today that are going to tone your Q4 glow up, okay? Number 1, sleep. Sleep reset is the foundation, okay? 7.5 to 8 hours is not a luxury. It is a biological infrastructure. I used to think back in my 4.5 hour a night days, 7.5 to 8 hours, there ain't no way. I was running multiple businesses. I had 2 toddlers. I was like, how do people get that much sleep? Now I know it is not a luxury, guys, at all. It is truly a biological infrastructure. And so it is going to increase your emotional resilience, reduce inflammation, restore your RAS neutrality, improve impulse control, and make you less reactive to outcomes. Okay? Number 2, the emotional labeling reset. I want you to name the emotion without negotiating it. Okay, this is going to increase your emotional maturity and build self-awareness, and essentially it's going to prevent you from collapsing into old identities, because we don't want to go backwards. Okay. Oh, speaking of going backwards, y'all know I like to reference some of these previous episodes just in case you missed them when I mentioned something about them. The episode 58, which was like 3 weeks ago, the title of that one is When You Think You're Going Backwards, You're Not. How to Recognize Progress When Old Patterns Resurface. So you might want to check that one out. Okay. The next thing. So I told you, okay, the sleep. That's numero uno. 2, emotional labeling reset. Number 3, the 10-minute home reset. Okay. I've talked about this, I know, on a couple episodes because it's so good. So this is one of my practices now. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I recommend to everyone to start implementing a 10-minute house reset. Guys, okay, clear one surface, one space, one table, one corner, one inventory pile. Okay, you don't start with the whole house. You start with one surface if the whole house feels a little overwhelming. Now, if you are at the point like where I am now, where my house stays tidy all the time, like it just stays tidy. Doesn't mean I don't have a day or two when, like, in between. For instance, when I was preparing for that event, it's like I'm hauling everything from my art studio to my house to prepare, get it ready. Or then when I come back from the event, it's like unload the car, everything's there. I got to sort it all out. I'm not saying there aren't ever days when I have stuff in my house, because there are. But the way that I live my lifestyle now, because I realize how beneficial it is to me and my nervous system, is to have a tidy, clutter-free home. And one of the ways that I'm able to maintain that now consistently is these 10-minute house resets. So if you just walk through, you pick up the blanket that got left on the couch, you pick up the shoes that got left by the door, you pick up, right, just all the little things, you make sure there's no dishes in the sink. You just, 10 minutes, you just kind of, this isn't like deep cleaning, guys. I'm not saying this is a deep cleaning thing. This is a house reset. You are putting things away where they go in their designated places. You're that laundry that's sitting folded on the sofa or wherever you fold your laundry, you're putting it away. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just 10 minutes. It's not all day. But if you get into the really great habit of doing this, and going into it, and look, you stop at 10 minutes, even if there's more to do. That's okay. You got 10 minutes more done than you would have gotten done, okay? And once this becomes a habit, and look, if you've got other family members, children, everyone can get involved in this. You can set a timer. Y'all can have a playlist. Maybe you do it for 2 songs. If there's 2 of you, you and a partner, you and a roommate, then you each pick a song and you do it until your 2 songs play. And then you're done, okay? Now, number 4, breath. Good old breath reset. 5 to 10 slow exhales is going to shift fight or flight to parasympathetic regulation, okay? This is coherence, guys, not collapse. And that's what we're here for, is coherence. Number 5, your digital ecosystem reset, okay? I want you to mute 3 or 4 or even 5 accounts that dysregulate you. And I want you to add 2 new ones that nourish you. You are resetting the mirror. I want you to do that like as soon as you finish listening to this episode, okay? Now, you may already know exactly which ones you're going to mute. And you might wait, and next time you get online, as soon as someone comes up that you're like, this content's not been resonating with me lately, that doesn't mean you want to unfollow the account. And by all means, if you're ready to truly let an account go, let it go. Like my mother of thousands, let it go. Okay? But at least mute 3 that are dysregulating you right now. Maybe it's just the season you're in and you don't feel aligned with that account. That's okay. That's okay. This is your permission, okay? But I do want you to add 2 new ones that nourish you. Okay, this is like you resetting the mirror. And again, guys, resets aren't regression, they're ownership. And so choose one and glow from it. All right? And because this is your integration season, I want to invite you to join the integration container, which is Self-Love Uni. And that's because this is your integration season. You will be seen and not shamed. You will be guided, not overwhelmed. You will practice and not perform. And you're definitely going to upgrade identity in layers together, okay? And you'll return your center with coherence and not collapse. And self-love really does become inevitable when you have a container that practices your resets in real time. Guys, it's identity transformation supported by nervous system regulation. And you can tap the link in the show notes or DM me if we're on social media together, the word SLU, to join the next cohort, which begins January 15th. And this is where you glow in practice, okay? I want to thank you. I want to end it like this, okay? Year 1 taught us to dream boldly. Year 1 of the podcast is what I'm talking about. As you may or may not know, we've just entered year 2 less than a month ago. So year 2 is asking us to live from our center with more coherence, more compassion, authority, alignment, presence, integrity, intuition, sovereignty, rhythm, renewal, ultimately embodiment. And if you're in that middle sacred space where the old you keeps trying to negotiate a comeback, that's a sign of growth and capacity and inventory surfacing, okay? Integration happening in layers. It's not regression. And you don't need to fight to evolve. You really and truly only need to reset the mirrors and reset the body and reset the soil and reset the inputs, reset the environment and reset the belief, reset the identity, reset the communication, reset the mirror neurons, and reset the ecosystem. Okay, that is self-love in practice. And if you want the container where self-love becomes inevitable in layers, where you will practice the resets together in real time, where you will upgrade identity in your becoming and embodiment era, Self-Love Uni was built for you. You're not going backwards, friends. You're deepening, you're rising, and you were right on time. I will see you inside Self-Love Uni, and that's how we roll. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. or visit dreamedithenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.